Hi, this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology bringing you the Mercury Retrograde in July, and it starts on July the 8th and it finishes August the 2nd. It will go through the signs of Leo and Cancer, and I think first what I'm going to do is actually just talk about the meaning of Mercury Retrograde, because so many people panic about, oh my God, Mercury retrograde, and oh, can I travel? And then I always get like a ton of questions saying, I've got a job interview on this day and blah, blah, blah. It's Mercury retrograde. Am I going to mess it up? Or we're traveling or whatever. Now, I've talked about this before, but I'm not sure if I've talked about it on YouTube much, about transcending the planets and how, my theory is that, well, it's not really my theory. That's the thing. I always say to people, our charts are like kind of a default programming, and once we know that that's what it is, we can, tweak them to suit ourselves and transcend the chart and not let, fate decide where we go. And then I heard the people on Off Planet Media talk about the same thing, saying that it's a default setting with astrology as well. So I thought that was really useful, and it's similar to there's two types of people who follow astrology. There are people that want to learn how to read the symbols, and they want to find out for themselves, and they don't want to be sort of told. They want to be educated in how to read the symbols and what they mean, but then they can do it for themselves. And then there's other people who are treating it way too literally, who are, as far as I'm concerned, just in the same position as people who just read the Bible literally and say, oh, I can't do this because the Bible says I can't, and blah, blah, blah. So it's that's the difference. And all religions can be used to control people, and all religions can be used in a negative and a positive way, and astrology is just the same, because it's the same kind of, it's a religion as well. I mean, all religions are based on the stars and cycles and nature, really, and so is astrology. So I thought it was very important to get that across first before I go into the meaning, or the default meaning, of Mercury retrograde in July. But generally, Mercury zips between two worlds, or rather the two hemispheres of our brains. But during the retrograde period, it feels like it's gone down into the underworld. And in this realm, closer to spirit, we become more right brain orientated. And as it's so dark, so our other senses are heightened. So we'll feel extra sensitive here, even psychic, and everything will seem hyper-real, and you will notice things that you'd overlooked before. And this will prompt you to re-evaluate, renovate, reform, and reinvent. And it's true, you might have to do or redo things, because Mercury does hit the same degree 3 times. But what this transit won't let you do is go into autopilot. So there are danger spots though, and I think when it starts to station, which means it's changing direction, it's quite at a sort of wobbly stage, because it's kind of, well, it's not actually going backwards, but it's an optical illusion. But still, there's a collective meme where we are adjusting to a new direction, and because of that, I do think there are slip-ups and people make mistakes and they misread communications as well. But once we're over the threshold and into the underworld, we can safely go about our business, knowing that we are in another realm. And the same goes for when Mercury is stationing direct as well. Just make sure you give your brain a few days to adjust back to solar thinking. So the house in your natal chart where the retrograde falls will be your underworld zone, and there you will question everything. It will make you jittery about signing contracts, because you'll constantly be thinking, is this what I really want? So before the retrograde is a good time to finish off those solar left brain projects and gather information to bring down with you into your retrograde cave. Then you can slow things down, let yourself be taken to other dimensions, try on different filters, experiment, shine a light on your demons, then recharge and reboot. So you also have to bear in mind that the whole cycle actually lasts 8 weeks, where you get the pre-shadow and the post-shadow as well. And it also can happen 3 or 4 times a year. So all the traditional advice that says, don't travel, don't sign contracts, don't marry or whatever, it would be just a real waste of time. You can't just sit around waiting for things to be okay. So as I've explained, it's actually quite a magical time if you realise, the greater scheme of things, how it all fits in, and it's just another cycle within a cycle. So I'm recording this on the 25th of June, and Mercury has actually entered the shadow zone already. That was 23 Cancer, and it will station retrograde at 4 degrees of Leo on July the 8th. And during that journey, actually, while it's stationing retrograde, it's going to be conjunct Mars as well. And that's why I had to sort of do an introduction saying we can transcend these energies, because when Mercury retrograde is conjunct the planet Mars, the god of war, it's going to be a time where war is threatened, in your personal lives. If you have planets connected with this, people might threaten aggression towards you as well. But because then it does go retrograde, they can back down, so any threats that are made, it's action, it's words rather than action. And let's hope the same for any imminent war that's going on as well, because obviously there's the whole threats now with Iran. I haven't kept up to date with that, but it does look quite dangerous as well. Now, another thing as well, when Mercury stations retrograde, the Sun will be widely conjunct Sirius as well, which is a star that is a real scorcher as well. So these are called the dog days of summer, when due to the heat, we can all have quite a short fuse as well. So there will be people just saying things that they don't really mean, that they're going to back down, retract later on, I think. So let's look at the retrograde by the decans. So Mercury will be in Leo Decan 1 from July the 6th to the 18th. And that's, as I said, it starts with this conjunction to Mars as well. Now, Mercury in this decan has great leadership qualities, and it's mainly because of its gift of oratory and the fact that those touched by this retrograde will have the ability to pull forth the words from Presipes spirit guides if they run out of their own ideas. Now, Presipes is the beehive cluster, and the retrograde doesn't get as far as Presipes, but it does, I think, influence the meaning of the decan generally. So, it's still important. So this is the decan of the channeler and of the artist who can pluck inspiration out of the ether. The connection to our ancestors is also strong, and much of our philosophy of life at this time will be taken from our family's traditions. Now, there are some difficulties here too, though, which normally comes from negative thinking. So even with the summer sun, we could get surprisingly melancholic at times. However, this might not be our own dark thoughts, but those of an ancestral wound, or just a heavy mood picked up from other family members. We might find it difficult not to fall into hive mind thinking, though, and have a hard time cutting the umbilical cord during this retrograde. So Austin Kopok, who also has written a book on the decans, likens this position to one of a stage magician. Speeches come with a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Now he says, this is his quote, "There may be something of the charlatan about them, tricks of light and darkness. A common affliction of these natives is the need to perform mentally. The need to appear witty is a hunger which the natives have a difficult time detaching themselves from." And that's unquote. So it seems this is a position that does well in commerce or politics. People in sales and marketing will do well with this Mercury in this position, especially if they're selling retro type products. And the energy of this retrograde in Leo Decan 1 favours those who can think on the fly and embellish their sales pitch to fit different audiences. So halfway through the retrograde, there's this Kadzimi moment, and that's when the Sun is exactly conjunct Mercury. And it will take place on the tail of Canis Major on a star called Aludra. And this constellation is said to represent Isis in the heavens because it's one of Orion's, or rather stroke Osiris's, hunting dogs. And it carries a very devoted energy. So here opens a window of wonderfulness where we can stand in the eye of the hurricane, but then emerge miraculously in one piece. So make use of this special Kadzimi moment and send, you can use it to send a romantic message that really hits the mark, or you can pitch an artistic idea as well. So these are the Kadzimi times. Actually, no, I'll just put them below because then you can refer to them instead of me just blurting out a load of numbers at you. Just bear in mind that the Kadzimi lasts about 2.5 hours either side of the hour of the times below. Oh, but I will tell you it will occur on July the 31st. And for those in New York, you'll get it at 8:30 a.m. and times for other places are below. Now, I forgot to say that, by then it will have gone, Mercury retrograde would have gone into Cancer Decan 3. And the Kadzimi takes place, I should say the degree as well, it's 28 degrees of Cancer. So after July the 19th, Mercury retrograde will be in Cancer Decan 3. So it doesn't have any dignity in this decan, but at the same time it resonates forcefully with the stars of Castor and Pollux in the twins. So this is the decan that they reside in. Now, the psychic powers and occult interests are very strong, but there is danger of Mercury being incredibly crafty here too. So this is the trickster face of Mercury, no question, but it's also a very low-key type of energy as well. In Norse mythology, Loki is the shapeshifter and can assist as much as he can be malicious. So between Castor and Pollux, we have the dilemma of not knowing which one to expect. With Pollux being activated for this retrograde, though, it will more likely be the darker side. So at best, the Mercury archetype stimulated at this retrograde is the spy and the in-depth researcher who can hide in the underworld and get out the best information for the good of humanity as a whole. Mercury Cancer Decan 3 might have to break some rules and tell barefaced lies, but the end result is what's important. But if you transcend this and transform the energy to something more positive, then you're going to get more of the energy of Castor, the good twin. So that could mean that people could be ridiculed for spreading fake news, which is a word that was invented in 2006, but it does fit Mercury very well here. Now, in my research, I found scandals aplenty in this decan with some fantastic liars with this position. Some had risked their lives for the sake of their writings, though. Salman Rushdie has this position, and some have written prophetic words, which is Aldous Huxley, who wrote Brave New World. And there's also the underworld spies in the shape of Assange and Scarbo. She was a spy in the World War II. Now, this theme seems to be risk-taking in pursuit of the story of the century. It is also a good position for fighting the legal profession as well. So, words are weapons. So, with the death penalty in some countries still, here in Mercury Cancer 3, one can literally be sentenced to death. So we could get some news, and hopefully it's good, concerning the extradition to the USA of Julian Assange, who will have Mercury stationed direct on his natal Mercury that he has at 24 Cancer. So his Mercury is actually on Pollux. So yeah, he is, seen as the evil twin. Pollux is often people who write about taboo subjects as well, dark subjects. So, that's him. So some key dates of when it's in Cancer Decan 3 is when Mercury is conjunct Procyon, which is the announcer star. It's like the barking dog. And that's between July the 23rd to the 26th. So Robson assigns a meaning to that, and he says Mercury with Procyon is occult interests, minor position of management under government, trouble and scandal through opposite sex, favourable for health and gain. Bernadette Brady says one who can adapt to changing situations, so a kind of flexible time, to have varied interest in both intellectual and or financial areas, and to show great adeptness. She says it's the completion of a time of glory, and a sports champion could retire at this time. So that's what it's associated with. So nothing too troublesome there, apart from maybe some problems with the opposite sex, a bit of scandal, but that's only if you've been naughty. Otherwise, that one's quite an easy one. Now, the next important conjunction is Mercury conjunct Venus, that should be quite nice because Venus is a benefic and there's no difficult star there really. It's kind of in between Procyon and Pollux, so maybe there's a bit of scandal there. So that's at 26 Cancer on July the 24th. Quite good for romantic overtures, I guess, singing under somebody's balcony or writing them some poems or emails. But probably the most difficult part of the retrograde, and it's not really that difficult, is Mercury conjunct Pollux. And this is only going to be for people who are connected with this degree in any way. So this is 23 degree Cancer between July the 26th and August the 3rd. And Mercury on Pollux is unbalanced mind, unpopular and peculiar occupation, trouble with father through relatives or enemies, domestic disharmony, anxiety, loss through land, property and mines. That's from Vivian Robson, who's always tends to be on the negative side. Then Bernadette Brady says that this position is struggling with new or unusual ideas, to make the contra-argument, to brush up against the legal system. A person in authority goes against the tide of public thinking. Who's that, I wonder? Then that's the thing. I mean, what is the public thinking? It's sometimes they say that they are going against what the public thinking is, but really it's what the press think rather than the public. I don't know, actually, thinking of it now, I wonder if it is... I just hope, Donald Trump isn't going to get all kind of warmongering, and then, he will have let down his fan base, wouldn't he? And it would be, he would be a person in authority who goes against the tide of what the public wants, because I don't think anyone wants a war in Iran at all. So, let's keep an eye on the news around that time, July the 26th to August the 3rd. So here's the point where I would normally do a rant. I haven't actually got much to say because there's so much to say that I almost don't want to start ranting about the world around me because I don't want it to take over the Mercury retrograde, and there's enough to get through. There's enough material to get through for this one because I have to do Mercury through the signs as well. So I don't think I'm going to spend too much time. Just generally, with this Mercury retrograde, we have to learn to read the signs. We need to know what the code that the power elites are putting out. And I mean, that's really what it's all about. I think we have a choice. I think Mercury is the trickster, and it's no use getting really angry with people in the media and even like famous stars for being players in this, because they're almost there to play the trickster to us so that to open our eyes, because sometimes it's really blatant, and it's blatant that they are totally contradicting what they say in their actions. So what I wanted to, now talking about famous people, I really want to. I've really got into Madonna again. I was a big fan of hers in, well, the 80s and the 90s, and she was a bit of a role model. And she's released a new album, and I just don't know what to make of it, really. I'm very confused by her, but it's got me looking back at her whole kind of history as well, and how much of an impact she's made on young women. I mean, she really is the most powerful. She's either a most powerful feminist, witch, priestess. I'm not quite sure. Maybe all of them. But you know, some people are sort of saying, oh, you know, she's an Illuminati tool, and I'm not sure about that either. I think it's a bit of both, but I really want to look into her career and see the transits, because she's played so many different characters in, you know, she's the queen of reinvention, as they say. And I must say I am disappointed with how she's aged, actually, and it's obvious she's had loads of surgery now, and I can't see her anymore. I can't see the Madonna I fell in love with. The eyes aren't there. I mean, what's with this no eyelids anymore? She's obviously had her face stretched so far back that there's no expression there anymore, and it really is like a mask. At the same time, I do admire her. You know, 61. She can retire. I don't know why she just doesn't retire. She's worth, last thing I checked, she's worth £800 million. Oh, she doesn't have to do this to herself. So either she's addicted to fame, or I don't know, or she's the Illuminati won't let her retire, because she's now in this position where I think her shock value now is that, oh my God, look, I can do this and I'm 61. I can still be sexy at 61, and I'm being a rebel because you're supposed to just sit down with your knitting and not be dating younger guys and doing all this when you're 61. Anyway, I've got so much to say about growing old gracefully, but I don't think I'm going to do it here because it's Mercury retrograde. But just let me know, because there's two things I keep saying I want to look at the Paul McCartney thing, and now Madonna's taken over, because both the Beatles and Madonna are so important in terms of cultural spellbinding, and that's why I call this Mercury spellbound, because they're magicians, sorcerers, both of them. And they're both really important. But if I jump into Madonna, I feel like I won't ever go back and do Paul McCartney, because I've been promising that for so long. So let me know which one you want me to do next. Let's just go back to the start of this, because really we're going back in time. We need to set the stage for the Tavistock Institute and cultural manipulation, social engineering. And the Beatles were the first really to do that really in a big way, but Madonna's doing it too. I'm pretty sure she is. I'm also wondering too whether there's two Madonnas as well, because she looked very strange in the 90s, and looking back at the videos I thought, that's a man. I'm wondering if she had a male stand-in as well. So or there's a lot of male energy coming out of her as well. So it could be, I don't know. Anyway, so let me know which one you want me to do first, because I really want to get into them both. And now I've got more time to do it, now that I'm not doing the monthly horoscopes anymore. But anyway, sorry, I did go on a bit too much for my rant, didn't I? I said I wasn't going to do one, and then I kind of did. But I had to ask you. So anyway, let's get on to what Mercury is going to, how it's going to play within the 12 signs. Well, I just want to say also that it is best read for your ascendant if you want to get it as close to what transits I would look at if I was looking at your chart. So read this for your ascendant, but you can do it for your sun sign as well, because that's what most astrologers do, because not everybody knows their rising sign. But just a tip there. So with Aries, the first half of the retrograde until the 18th will take place in your 5th house. So that's where Mercury really is the arch trickster and very playful. So you might have the urge to play a lot of pranks on people at this time. The problem is there's a high chance that they will backfire, so just don't do it. However, you should take advantage of the silliness that is pervading in the air and go and see some comedy shows or something like that. It will be rip-roaring fun as laughter is infectious. Now, after the 19th, Mercury goes into your 4th house, so something that seems insignificant can be a sensory trigger that could transport you back in time just as well as any TARDIS could. For days afterwards, you could have dreams, intuitions, and a weird synchronicity that opens up unfinished business in your life. This is an opportune time to have a good heart-to-hearts with a parent if there have been misunderstandings in the past that need reviewing. So for Taurus, it starts off in your 4th house and you'll feel like withdrawing from discussions with those in the outside world at this time. You're really not in the mood for heated debates on current affairs. Instead, it seems that your thoughts are looking into the distant past and maybe old memories are coming back to haunt you. Then from the 19th, it could be easier to start composing important writings when Mercury is direct in your 3rd house, where it is now. So don't get too annoyed with yourself for making or for maxing out on Kindle downloads. Otherwise, this is also a time when you can slow down and take things easy in your neighbourhood instead of rushing through your high street because you're always on your way somewhere. You might actually take the time and stop at a coffee shop for a change, which could cause you to strike up pleasant conversations with local people that usually pass you by. For Gemini, until the 19th is a great time for in-depth researching. You'll feel very much more inclined to spend time looking into many topics and getting your teeth into some really juicy subject matter. Those studying for exams will find they can easily get their head down and ignore pressure from others to come out and play. After the 19th, then it moves into your 2nd house, which is your cash zone, and it could be a time when you do a lot more personal shopping than usual, but then find you're returning a lot of it. Sometimes, though, this Mercury retrograde can be good for specifically buying online, so you can try clothes on at home with other outfits. You might do well writing for money at this time about subjects to do with self-worth and ways to boost self-esteem. Cancer, until the 19th, with Mercury retrograde in your 2nd house. Prepare to get your merchant head on until the 19th, while you have a natural feeling for buying and selling. This will not be the perfect time to sign a contract for a large purchase, however, such as a house or car, but you can do quite well testing ideas out and dealing in actual retro items. You might pick up some bargains at an auction, also if you have a particularly strong natal Mercury. After the 19th, you will be closely identified with anything you write. So, if you need to express your personal truth for posterity, now is the time to prepare for that. Yes, it is a retrograde, so it might be wise to wait until it's after Mercury is direct in this house to officially publish anything. But any throwaway comments that raise an eyebrow and witticisms that raise a laugh make great fodder that can be stored away for future use. It's a great time to examine how certain words affect your body as well. Books you read at this time will be felt viscerally. So Leo, this obviously happens in your sign, and it's a very important time for getting your thoughts clear before you express yourself. What you say will be paid very close attention to, so that each and every nuanced word will be amplified. Mercury retrograde has the effect of echoing messages, tweets or letters over time, so that it's not easy to forget the words that are said. This is why it is of utmost importance that you mean what you say and say what you mean. Any communications that you make will stick around as if they were engraven on clay tablets and will last just as long. But this all changes after the 19th, where it goes into hiding in the 12th house. Then you may be distrusted just because you've gone all quiet. So annoyingly, some people will just fill in your silence with fanciful stuff they just made up. So really, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. The way to handle this is not to totally gag yourself, but just hold back before you respond to any criticism or accusations. For Virgo, until the 19th, you will feel rather hermit-like and will want to retreat from communicating with the world. It may be because you fear that what you say will be misconstrued, or every word that tumbles out of your mouthpiece will cause chaos like a runaway train. Something is triggering you big time, to the point you feel like you're suffering from a kind of abusive Tourette's. If this is the case, then yes, it would be sensible to ban yourself from any internet forums. Mercury is clowning around in your zone of self-undoing, so self-censorship might be wise in the outside world also. After the 19th is a time for doing a lot of plain thinking and for making sure that the ultimate prize that you have put on your future mantelpiece isn't just to impress your parents or peers. Ask yourself why you really want this. Would this prize really make your soul happy if there was no audience? Sometimes we can make very pretentious decisions just because we're afraid our friends won't like us if we revealed our true selves. Other possibilities at this time is that you make friends with a much younger crowd than usual who give you a fresh, new perspective on life. For Libra, Mercury swoops backwards in your hopes and dreams sector, which will force you into facing whether those hopes or dreams are realistic or not. It may be a time now to revise your goals. Are they too high or not high enough? Have you even had the time to sit down and envision some kind of future dream scenario? So, well, if not, then this is that very moment. So daydream as much as you can. It's really not time wasting at all, because you know what you're doing is manifestation. After the 19th, one of the good things to do would be to learn a new skill that can help take your business to the next level. If you take time out to do this, then you can avoid the usual Mercury retrograde, office niggles and computer malfunctions. The most annoying thing about this transit is that the sales could go quite slowly and you might have to make a few refunds. It's just the nature of the cycle and nothing to worry about once you realise it's just the retrograde. Of course, if you're super evolved, you can transcend this and you may not even get the refunding problem. So then you can actually examine and use this opportunity to test whether you are working at a transcendental vibration or not. With Scorpio, you might find that the publicity side of your business becomes important, especially your online presence. It's actually quite a good time for a rebrand, but wait until it's direct before you actually unveil the new look. How you communicate yourself to the wider world is under review, and you might have to hold back while you rethink your presentation strategy. There could be an incident where there actually is some kind of miscommunication, which makes you realise that you do have to work on making yourself clearer. After the 19th, Mercury is in that problematic area of the 9th house of travel. So yes, do the normal precautions like read the holiday description thoroughly before you book, double check your itinerary, flight times, etc. Then do what Mercury retrograde loves, like visit somewhere you've been before, so a revisit, or somewhere that you want to return to. Going somewhere with a past life connection is also another option. And researching into ancient cultures would also be fabulous. If that includes visits to sacred sites, so much the better. For Sagittarius, it's time to learn a foreign language. Yep, this is utterly the best time for it, mainly because even your mother tongue will sound like Swahili to you, so you might as well go the whole hog. I'd love to advise you to travel too, but every other astrologer on the planet will be screaming, no! Well, damn it, I'm still going to advise travel, but all we have to do is be a bit clever and out-trick the trickster. So again, if we believe in astrology, if Mercury is making a square or hard aspect to the ruler of your 3rd house, which is local journeys, or the ruler of your 9th house, which is this one, the international house, then you may experience some delays. But otherwise, if it's not, then you're good to go anyway. So it's all about taking power of your chart and making it work for you and not being scared by a bloody transit, It doesn't have power. It's like I said, it's like astrological weather. It's just a cycle, and it will show. It might slow you down. That's all it can do. It's not going to be dangerous. After the 19th, it goes into the 8th house, which is the house of psychology. So everything is going to feel really deep, and you are unable to take anything at face value. Sometimes things really are that simple, but not for you at this time. All communications will seem suspect, and there is a conspiracy at every corner. You are left feeling quite paranoid. A fascination with the occult and life after death, though, will be very marked at this time, and conversations with anyone will turn quite heavy, to the point it will be impossible to talk about the weather, unless a killer hurricane is on its way, that is. The world is a melodrama at this time, so you can either lock yourself in a dark cellar or join up with other folk who want to talk about taboo and apocalyptic subject matter. For Capricorn, Mercury steals Pluto's invisible helmet and goes deep into the underworld for you during this time. Yep, it's in the 8th house for the first half until the 19th. This means that you probe into the deepest recesses of your own mind, or want to penetrate the psyche of a loved one. Be careful that you respect the boundaries of this other person, because the questions could easily become an unhealthy invasion of their privacy. This transit can feel to others around you that they're being interrogated by the Gestapo. Avoid this tendency by investigating the human psyche in general, rather than experimenting with actual human brains. You could feel unusually psychic at this time, also since the ability to effortlessly pass through different dimensions is enhanced. After the 19th, Mercury goes into your house of marriage, so this is a big one. It could bring up a medical for your love life, which really means that you'll need the help of your partner to problem solve. 2 heads are better than 1, as they say. So as this is the house of contracts, avoid entering one for now with your partner, because you could easily change your mind. But if you really have to, do not sign anything until you've read and reread every last word of the deed. It's so easy to overlook things at this time, because you have a brain that is very much working on the right brain imagination, which is like taking a tab of acid, really. Now, also, you could get communications from an ex during this time. Now, if this happens, it usually does the trick of making you see why they were an ex in the first place, just in case time has rose-tinted your memories of them. For Aquarius now, you will have the Mercury Retrograde in your marriage house right from the start. So you may get the dreaded "we need to talk" sentence coming out during that. Now, that doesn't mean that you're being fired for being the other half, but it does mean that you cannot avoid revealing what is behind your glazed eyes. It will be very obvious that you do have something on your mind, so best just to be honest and get it all out. It's all good health. At least Mercury here can be quite objective about things and avoid triggering sensitive childhood wounds. You will be pleasantly surprised that you're able to discuss intimate matters quite coolly and dispassionately, like a doctor. After the 19th, the retrograde goes back into your health zone, and you might spend a lot of time doing "have I got Asperger's?" or "what diet suits my type?" tests online. So testing yourself is quite a good thing to do at this point, again and again and again. That is quite a verbally critical position for Mercury, so try not to be too judgmental of your peers. You're not really able to see the bigger picture, so reserve stating your opinion until you can disengage your eyeball from the microscope. In other words, when it's direct in this house again. Another good way to use this energy is to rework some old project or conduct a review of how your business is doing. So you can spend all that Mercury vibe looking at the year in bar chart form, graphs and analytics, which is quite bliss for Mercury retrograde in this position. And finally, Pisces, you have this in your 6th house of health. So nervous energy is quite high during this period, and you could turn into quite a worrywart So retrogrades can slow things down, but in this section, what Mercury tends to do is replay things like an old vinyl record stuck in a groove. This can mean that anxieties spiral out of control as you become obsessed by the minutiae of life. This is also the health house too, so you could become quite a hypochondriac. But there is a positive way to deal with all this nitpicking, and that's just to go 120% into researching whatever is concerning you. But after the 19th, the Mercury retrograde goes into your 5th house of fun and childhood. So therefore, do not make any earnest speeches at funerals. This is a very childlike period for you where you will probably regress to the mentality of an 8-year-old. Having fun with the little people then would probably be the best way to ride this retrograde out, where you can make all the fart noises you want to. This is a fabulous time for playing games too, so get together with a bunch of mates to play Drunken Twister, which also would be fun. Making babies might also be well starred, just because this is a zone of children, as I just said, and recreational sex. You might even end up with twins. So that brings me to the end. My voice is getting very sore at the moment. We've got terrible, terrible air quality in London at the moment. And I'm looking forward to doing all the stuff that I've been going on and on about for a long time. It may seem like, who wants to know about Madonna's astrology? But I think I'm not looking at it so much. It's more of a social commentary, because she's really a kind of icon for the times, and I think she's it's good to follow. I think she's a very good barometer of the state of maybe the left. I'm not sure. She did actually get some criticism from the left when she did Papa Dom preach. I remember having a joke about that. Sorry, he's having a curry. Papa Dom preach. Because of her saying, but I made up my mind, I'm keeping my baby. So she wasn't going on about abortion. She was going on about keeping the baby. So, but then it was Papa, the Pope, not preaching. So, yeah, interesting. She's such a trickster, isn't she? So yeah, I just think she's interesting, and if you do too, then I will really get into it. I think it might be more than just one though, because she's got such a long career, and there's so much to get through really with her. But I'm most interested in. I think I'm interested in her the extremes, because her ray of light, she was all very yoga, spiritual, and then she went from that to being all edgy, sexy bitch Madonna again. So I don't know. Okay, enough of Madonna. All right, thanks for listening. All the best. Bye-bye.